So based in Dehradun, sir. Hello, am I audible?
We can start. You're audible.
Yeah, you're audible. Do you want me to start off?
Yes, sir. I'll just give a very quick intro. So thank you so much, sir. Good evening, Jai Hind, to everyone. We have Captain Berry with us, and he's a 1971 war veteran, served with the Mahar Regiment, and also an accomplished corporate soldier after his military innings. So today we bring him on board to share the experiences, the rich experiences that he has on 1971 war. With that, sir, what we've been doing in these series is we have about 30 minutes of 30 to 35 minutes of the talk by the guest, and thereafter we invite questions from the audience. So depending on how many questions come, we will take them, and we will request you to educate the audience with. With that, sir, over to you, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Himanshu. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to interact with you and share with you some of my experiences in the army, which cover a period of over about a decade, in which I was fortunate to have been involved in counter-insurgency operations in Nagaland and the Indo Pak War 1971. The events have left an indelible imprint in my mind. When we join the army, we are trained for war. But very few get an opportunity to experience a full-scale war. I was one of the fortunate ones to make my training, to use my training in real war, the 1971 Indo-Pak War. However, before I speak about the war, let me share a few experiences of my early years in the army. After passing out from OTS, Chennai, I was commissioned in the Mahar Regiment in 1967, and I joined my battalion in Merinkong, Nagaland, which at that time the insurgency in Nagaland was at its height. Fizo, the leader of the main faction of the insurgents, had fled to Europe and was controlling the insurgents from there. His general, Mobu Angami, was in China, with a large number of insurgents who were being trained by the Chinese. Please don't mind, I'm telling you something about the Nagaland also because this will give a backdrop to as to how we can be switching over from jungle warfare to desert warfare. So just to continue, our battalion was ordered to move immediately when we came to know that General Mobu Angami, along with a lot of insurgents, was returning from China to Burma border. Burma border is, on the in Nagaland, there are 3 districts in Nagaland: Twensang, Mokokchung, and Kohima. Twensang is the borders in China, and that is a mountainous terrain and having a lot of tribes there. Actually, as you must have heard of also, the tribes of Nagaland were basically initially headhunters. They were always at war with each other. Their villages and all were always on top of a mountain, so that it was difficult for any invading other tribe to come and overpower them. So they were always on that, and they were a very warlike people and a very backward community. When I joined in 1967, at that time, the main, as I would like to tell you, is that the main tribes there are the Angamis, the Aos, and the Simas. The Angamis are, well-read people. Aos are also very well-read people, and the Simas were basically more of a warlike tribe. So they all were in, sort of dominating the thing. Various small tribes were there. Now, Winsang, which is bordering Nagaland, was inhabited by the Khemlungan tribe. The Khemlungan tribe is a very backward tribe. As a matter of fact, I'm saying when we went there, the people hardly knew anything about themselves. Rather, they wore no clothes. They were bottomless, topless, and everything. I mean, they were just very, very backward. You can imagine that when the first time our helicopter landed there, they came out with spares to thinking that it's a very big bird. So just to show you that when we went there, we were, ordered to move from Mokokchung to Twensang for, catching hold of these insurgents who were coming back from China, which we did. I was there with the battalion at that time for just about 3 months, and I was ordered to move with a patrol of about 30 persons to intercept these people on the border itself. I moved from Mokokchung to Ensang by jeeps, and along with my troops, and the roads were very bad. Certain times we had to just get down and measure the road to see whether jeep will pass over it or not, because an inch of difference would have landed you hundreds of feet down. So, and it was sure death, if it is there, because the mountains are very, very devious, and those hills were very difficult to, drive upon. Anyhow, we reached a place called Noklak, which is very close to the border. And I was given orders from the brigade headquarters that I should move to the another village which is about 30 kilometers away, which is Venshoi, from where we had to operate and take on the Mohu Ngami's gang, which was coming back, and lay ambushes, etc. That was another 30 minutes, I would say 30 kilometers away. We started from there with about 30 days, 10 days ration, and we moved to the border, and we were there for 10 days, and thereafter we we did not catch hold of them. They meanwhile camped inside Burma itself, and they did not come that side. So we waited for them, and I was thinking that we would be coming back to the brigade headquarters from there. But again, we were ordered to stay put and stay there for another 10 days more. We had no rations, we had nothing. We had to barter, bottles of rum and get rations for the troops. We had some 4 guides from the Assam Rifles who were very competent guys who knew exactly how things could be done in the jungles. They found, things which could be eaten from the jungle itself, and we survived. We survived for a few days, and after that, again, this continued for almost 2 months. We were out for 2 months, and ultimately we were asked to open a new outpost in Venshoi itself. There we cleared a little place, and we could, get airdrop of food from the Air Force, which helped us in continuing there for the next month and a half or so. Anyway, the background to this was only that we were there for almost about 3.5 years in Nagaland. And I was also instrumental in that time in with a band of officers from various battalions. We opened the police training and commander school for the division in Chakpe Karong in Manipur, where we used to train the police people and even the army commandos and all in warfare in the jungles. From there, we came back. I was in Kohima that time, which, as you know, Kohima is a very, very well-known thing in the World War II. The Japanese had come up to that place. There's a beautiful war memorial made there, which is even today being tended by the British and the other countries who had participated, and it's a lovely place to be in. Anyway, we were there, and after about 3.5 years tenure in Nagaland, we got out from there and came to Pune. Pune was our peace station. Just before we left, as a matter of fact, there was a very sad incident in which we had surrounded the general headquarters of the Naga army, and we had just, were about to nab all of them, when suddenly, we just moved one patrol from, place A to place B, just about 200 meters, and they were ambushed by the Nagas, and we lost 14 people in that ambush. Anyway, we managed to extricate ourselves from there, and after that, we really, in the last few days, we really let them have it, and we, made it even with them. So we came out from there in September 1970 and came back to Pune on a special train and arrived here in end of September. We were immediately, made to go for training, because we were coming from the jungles, the whole mountainous place and jungles of Nagaland. And straight away, our operational task was in the desert. coming from a land of leeches and snakes, we came to the land of sand, scorpions, and snakes again. This place was very new to us, and we were sent on, at that particular time, the war clouds were gathering because, from Bangladesh, a lot of people were being sent by, refugees were coming in. And it was very difficult for India also to look after so many refugees. Our Prime Minister, as you would have read in history books also, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, she went all around the world and she tried to garner support to see how this problem could be sorted out. But even USA and China and all, nobody backed us. So ultimately, we had to come back, and it was decided that something will have to be done about it. In one of the meetings, General Manekshaw, who was the chief at that time, he was called and he was asked to go in and sort this matter out in Bangladesh, which he point blank refused. He said, "Nothing doing. I will not go in that this time. If you send me now, that means it's 100% a defeat for us." The reason given by him, as you also may have heard also earlier, was that he said this is the time when the passes are open, the water flow is much more, the slows melt, and all the rivers will be flooded. And Bangladesh has got a lot of rivers and rivulets where it would be difficult to maneuver and go inside there and do anything. So anyway, his talk was accepted, and Ms. Indira Gandhi gave him time. He said, "Okay, don't worry, Bab, I will do the needful. Give me 6 months time and I'll do it." So for 6 months, we were training. For us, the training was in the desert. We went there a day. One of this exercise called Meetha Sapna was organized for us, which was exactly as per our operational plan. The operational plan was to go inside Pakistan and reach their defenses, because the basic war was going on with in Bangladesh. That is at that time erstwhile in East Pakistan. We were in the western side. It was only a holding operation. Holding operation means that we had to, make sure that the Pakistanis do not, sort of disengage their troops and send them to Bangladesh to reinforce those people. So it was a holding operation, and we were trained for that. The training was very sort of difficult for us also, because the first time we had come into the, sort of the desert. And but slowly we gathered, a lot of confidence, and we did the training. We went across the desert. This Meetha Sapna was exactly the same as an operational plan, and I would not be wrong in saying that we did really in war also. When it happened, it was absolute up to the T that we did as per what we had trained for. To the extent that I'll tell you, it may be a little, sort of a anecdote, in which our quartermaster, who was supposed to bring rations to us, strayed into Pakistan territory and was almost on the verge of capture. And believe me, the same thing happened during the actual war itself. He was just saved at the last minute. Some last troops were there who could just stop him, and he came back. Now, after this training, we came back to Pune. That is sometime in say about June or July of 1970. 71. July 71. And for 3 months, we were training in Pune itself. And during that period, all our weapons, our, whatever requirements is there for the war was being got ready. And ultimately, it was on about 23rd or 24th of October, on the Diwali day, we were asked to move from Pune to our operational area. A special train was organized, and on Diwali night, we moved out from there and landed up in a place called Munabao. Munabao is on the border of Pakistan and India. It's an international border, and we were short of, Munabao. We just camped there, and we sat there for the next 3 months, almost 2 months. But every time it was made sure to tell us that yes, the war is on. As a matter of fact, General Manik Shah visited us a couple of times, and he didn't mince his word. He said very clearly that don't be under the impression that there's not going to be a war. There will be a war, and you people have to be ready for it. When it happens, when the balloon goes up, we will tell you. But you have to go as per the task, the operational task, and fulfill it so that we achieve our aim. So, absolutely. So we waited, did our training. In those times, I mean, say we had some patrolling also. For the first time, we were given to ask to ride camels, and I'm say it was another difficult thing to do. Once you ride a camel and you get down, you are bow-legged. You are almost, I mean, say, the hair on your legs are very gone. So it's quite a laughing matter when you see some officers walking, with bow legs and all. Anyway, it was good fun, and we passed our time. We played games in the sand. At night, we used to sleep in our bivouacs, but at night we used to sleep with our boots on because there were so many, snakes, particularly vipers and scorpions all over the place. At night, we had to first of all check our, sort of the bivouac and our tents to ensure that there were no snakes lurking around. And many of times we did find some. So we used to sleep with our boots on, and time passed. When on 1st of December, we were told to be ready at 2 hours' notice to move into enemy territory. But we kept on 2 hours' notice for about 2 days, and on third evening, suddenly at about 3 o'clock or so, we were given orders that stand down. This 2 hour notice is withdrawn. Stand down. Further orders will follow. Now, stand down means that the troops were again back in their tents and in their bivouacs, and whatever rations we had prepared, the army, marches on its stomach, as you know. So we had prepared shakarparas, we had prepared puris and all that, what our Indian troops are used to eating, and kept it. But when we were made to stand down, everyone, most of the guys finished off their rations because otherwise it would have gone stale. Suddenly at about 6 o'clock, we got information that our half a dozen airfields had been raided by the Pakistanis, and so that the balloon had gone up. So without anything, we were asked to move immediately within an hour and a half. We were on our trucks. We moved from there to the international border, which was about 20 kilometers away. We moved to the international border and reached there on the fourth morning. And fourth morning we were there. The whole day we were spent there. And our supporting troops also joined up with us at that time. Supporting troops, we had one armored squadron which joined us, and plus the coordination between the artillery, between the air force, and everybody was done there while waiting for the crossover. The HR means the time when we were asked to cross over into the enemy territory, that is Pakistan, was kept at about 8 o'clock. But unfortunately, the squadron which was supposed to join us got a bit delayed because they met with some accident in route, and they came a bit late. So we moved into Pakistan at about 10:30 at night. We were went in three columns. One column attacked the border outpost of the Pakistanis. Second column was went just across. There is a place called Betala. Betala is next to the border, about few kilometers inside, about 2-3 kilometers inside. And we decided that the second one will go directly to Betala. And I was the support company commander that time. And as being a support company commander, I got the F echelon, and the F echelon is the all the backup vehicles and all which are there. Plus we had also made a jeep company, as a matter of fact, which was supposed to be in operation once we reached Betala. So with all these vehicles and all, we moved to cross the border at about 10:30 at night. And believe me, it was a real Herculean task to go on the getting all the vehicles through because of this soft sands. The vehicles were getting bogged down. We had to manually push them sometimes. Sometimes we had to find ways and means. Shrubs and all were used for pushing the vehicles out. But with God's grace, we managed to get across from that area, and we reached Betala early morning at 6 o'clock. The other column by that time had already reached there, and they had moved ahead of us. The other one, the main column which had attacked the BOP, they had overcome them, and they came and joined this thing, and they were ahead of us. So we moved behind them, and the next stop was a station called not Parcheji, where it was later on. So we crossed over, and when we reached this area, we were told that the enemy is still there. They are hiding in trees and various places, and we should not let our guard down at all. So it was a very difficult thing. Early morning, we never had. The water was a problem. Rations had already been eaten, and our person who was the quartermaster, he was getting ready with the replenishing the thing. But then it was really very difficult in the daytime, because in the deserts, the daytime becomes very hot and the nights are very cold. So it becomes very, very difficult for a man to adjust to that, because at night you're wearing a coat parka, and in the daytime you can't even wear a shirt. It's so hot. So you see, there is a railway line is there, which is used to be before P65. This railway line used to be the joining this Jodhpur with Hyderabad Sindh. Naya Chor is the last point in the desert, and this railway line was a meter gauge line, which from Munamau is the last station in India. From there, it used to go and climb, go into Naya Chor, and then to Hyderabad Sindh. Now these railway line was it was not being used for since 1965. So it a large section of the railway line had been removed, so we could not use it. But that was the axis on which we were asked to move towards the towards our aim, that was to capture Naya Chor. Naya Chor is the end of the desert where we expected the main defenses to be there. So we started moving, and the next station, as I was telling you, after Betala was Khokropar. Khokropar is another station from where we could move along the railway line towards this thing. Our battalion was moving ahead, and it was really incident-free for some time, and we could reach Khokropar, and there we plunked for the night. We stayed there. And by that time, I had married up with the main battalion also, but I was again, since with the vehicles I had to come, it was slow going. So they moved ahead. They moved ahead, and they reached Parchejiveri station. Parchejiveri station is again a very close to the international border, and almost rather it's at the end of the desert, Naya Chor. It's very close by to that. And there, early morning at about 7 o'clock, our main force reached there. And there we got the first attack from the Air Force. There were about 4 Sabre jets which attacked us and really strafed us, and they threw bombs, whatever they could, they do through that. And that's where the battalion had their first casualties of 2 men who were killed in that. But otherwise, that's what we survived that attack, and there was nothing, no problem. By that time, our Indian Air Force also started, and the moment the NATs and our HF-24s and all came, these guys used to run away. We were in Parchejiveri. We stayed there for a few hours, and then we, out ahead of Parchejiveri, we could see the railway line was going through 2 big sand dunes. These huge sand dunes were there, which are about 200 meters height. So those sand dunes, that it was decided that we should not go along the railway line, but we should deviate from that. So deciding that, we turned a bit toward the left, and we went towards the sand dune, which was on the left side, which was a very big sand dune. Now the sand dune, while we were advancing toward it, another sand dune came in, and from there we had our first encounter with the Pakistanis, and they started firing at us from that sand dune. We dug in there, and it was decided to attack that sand dune. This was actually on the 7th morning that we had reached Paracheveri, and on 9th morning we were near this place where we got the firing from, which was we christened as Apex. Apex is the name of the place which was given, and it was decided that this probably would be one of the strong points of the enemy, and it could be their screen. Screen means from where they get all the information, and once the main defenses will be behind that. So we captured, we thought about the thing, and one day it was decided to do patrolling was sent, and we checked out and found out that yes, there were troops barring that. And on night of 10th and 11th morning, I, along with another company, I was along with one of the companies, and we attacked Apex and we captured it by about 8 o'clock in the morning. It was captured, and the troops which were banning that, they evacuated from there and went back to the main defenses. So Apex was captured on 11th morning. As we captured Apex, from there we could see this majestic, sand dune which was in front of us, and it was just about you can say about 2 kilometers away from us. So when we sent out patrols, it was found that this place was manned by their 39 Frontier Force, which was the companies which were holding on to this sand dune, which was their main defenses. Our patrols on night of 11th and 12th again found out that this place was completely surrounded by minefields which were almost about 1,000 meters in depth and about 3 kilometers, in frontage was there. And these mines were both anti-personnel as well as anti-tank mines. Along with us, the brigade which we were part of the brigade, we had another this battalion with us, which was the Sikh battalion, and 3rd battalion was a Sikh battalion. The Sikh battalion was on the north side of the railway line, and we were on the southern side. The main defenses were on the southern side as well as on the right side, and which it was found that both the battalions would have to attack it to get sort of attack them and overpower them. It was very sort of a difficult task, but it was decided that now that the momentum was there, we should not stop. Let us go ahead and let's finish off the task to the best of our abilities. So we should try that. That's what the new brigade commander, actually, I just missed out to telling you one thing, that our present brigade commander, who was there with us, he, his jeep overran a mine and he was wounded and he had to be evacuated. So a new brigade commander joined us, who just came at the time when we had come to the Apex and captured that. He, along with our CO and the other 2 COs of the other 2 battalions, it was decided that we shall attack the feature on night 12th, 13th. We meanwhile gathered more information and checked out on the minefield, how long and how big it is on the other side. So the first attack, in the first phase, we were supposed to attack my battalion and the other Sikh battalion. We were given the task of capturing, this thing in 2 phases. Sikh was one thing, and Sikh was to capture the other side of the area by about next day morning, early morning they would do. So our HR was decided to be at about 3:15 in the morning. At 3:15 in the morning, we were supposed to attack, and up to our 2 companies, Alpha and Charlie companies, were given the task of attacking. And we were told that we will have to move ahead to the FUP, that's the forming up place, by about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the CO briefed us, and he called all the company commanders, and it was given the task to the 2 company commanders to move ahead and capture Parvatali, which was the name of the sand dune, which was the majestic sand dune which was in front of us. Parvatali is, it was the highest point in that area. Our companies, both the 2 companies, when the company commanders and myself, and along with us, the 2IC was deputed to lead the attack. and I was sent along with him to assist him because since I was a support company commander, at that time I was a major, so I was told, yes, go ahead and go and assist in the 2IC in sort of in the attack. After the things were over, again, our CO, a gentleman who had just joined the battalion a few months earlier, he invited us. He said, "Today, come to my bunker and let us have a last drink before you guys go for an attack." The only stipulation which he laid down was, gentlemen, the whiskey is mine, but the water is yours. Because there was no water in that area. So anyway, we had a couple of drinks, and not even a couple, just a small drink, and we all moved out from there. And we reached the FUP at about 3 o'clock in the morning. The troops were there waiting for the time at 3:15 to go into attack. The enemy at that till that time were unaware that we were going to attack. They were absolutely caught off guard, and exactly at 3:15 we moved ahead. But again, as we moved ahead, you see in the minefield, wherever the minefield is laid, the edge of the minefield, you'll always have about a 6 inches high barbed wire or some sort of a wire to show that, yes, from here the minefield starts. Now, the troops were also, though they were aware, but everybody there, you see, anybody who says that he's not scared or he doesn't have any fear is talking bullshit. It cannot be there because everybody is scared. So we all stopped there, and the Jawans started saying, "Sir, it's a minefield." But anyway, our Maha troops are the ones who like to be led. So we officers, we first of all crossed the minefield, we got into the minefield, and everyone with us, we moved ahead. Fortunately, on our side, we had more of anti-tank mines than anti-personnel, so we had lesser casualties, but we moved ahead. And when we moved ahead, one or two, when the six were on our left side, and when they moved ahead, there were a lot of anti-personnel mines, and they were having more casualties as far as the menfolk were concerned. But with those blasts and all, the enemy came to know, and we all, hell broke loose, and we had a lot of machine guns firing at us. There were about half a dozen machine guns which were firing at us. But fortunately, we reached crossed the 1,000 meters of minefield, and we reached the base of the sand dune, that is 200R, which was known as Parvati. And there we had to, climb that distance with small arms fire being directed us from above. But since the fire was coming from top, it was not very accurate. It was going over, and we were not having that many casualties. Of course, a few casualties were there. But we reached the top. We reached the top of Parvatali, and there, in a hand-to-hand combat with the Pakistanis, we overpowered them, and they ran out of that place, and leaving behind quite a few dead Pakistanis and a few wounded ones. And they withdrew and came onto the rear side of Parvatali. After about half an hour or so, Parvatali, after capturing, we came to the highest point, and there we again, some trenches were there, but our men were told to dig in, because as you normally know, once you attack and capture a place, there is bound to be some counter attacks from the Pakistanis. They won't leave you just like that to just enjoy yourself and say that you captured the place. Counter attacks will always be there. So we thought it will be the men attacking, but at about 5:30 in the morning, all hell broke loose, because all the weapons, the guns and mortars and everything of the Pakistanis were let loose, and we were under army, arty shelling for almost 1.5 hours. It was a real, nice to hear the shell whizzing past over above your heads, because the shell which lands on you will not be hurt. It will just land on you and you're gone. So whenever you used to hear the shell going above you, you could be sure you're still alive. Anyway, this can continue till 1.5 hours, but by that time, our artillery also had moved up, and then they neutralized their artillery, and we could very comfortably sit and, sort of recoup ourselves. So by 6 in the morning, we could see that the enemy had run out of this thing, and a success signal, which is, given to the battalion headquarters. And in our case, our CO was very fond of the, at that time, favorite dancer Helen. So the success signal was Helen. So we passed the success signal on to this thing saying that we have captured their height. And at that time, the second phase was started, which was our Delta company under another officer who moved ahead to capture the finger. Finger is the one which is going downhill towards the rear side of the sand dune, which was still being held by the Pakistanis. So our Delta company, along with their officer commanding them, moved in, and they actually went and captured the finger by about 70, by about 6:30. It's about 7 o'clock, I would say. They captured that, and we waited. They had two counterattacks on them. The two counterattacks were repulsed by them, but in the bargain, the company commander was wounded, and we had to evacuate him. Fortunately, since I was there on the scene, I was ordered by my commanding officer to go and take over from the officer and take over the command of Delta Company. I immediately moved ahead, and my first task was to, when I saw that, to evacuate the officer, which we did, and a couple of more casualties were there. We evacuated all of them. And then I saw a lot of movement down, in the base of the sand dune. We saw that a lot of Pakistanis were moving around. So I sent a patrol from my side, and one patrol was sent by Charlie Company from their side, which consisted of about 15 people of both sides, and we went down. And there we encountered that this was the mortar platoon of the Pakistanis. They gave up without a fight, and we captured about 17 people there. The full mortar platoon weapons, and almost about 30-40 weapons were captured in that particular attack, and we brought these people up and brought them to the main thing. By the time our battalion headquarters also had moved up, and a safe lane was being made from in the minefield, and then the safe lane through that the battalion headquarters came up. So we were, by that time our strength had built up, and we were in complete control of this place. The Mahar Regiment flag, along with the tricolor, were unfurled on top of this Parvatali 200R, which, as a matter of fact, was a survey point for the artillery, from where they used to direct the entire firing on all the people. There we used their survey point, and our flags were hoisted at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we came in full control of that. This was on early morning of 13th. Now, 13th morning onwards, we had sporadic firing coming from the Pakistanis, and there we came to know that our other battalion, which was on the northern side, the Sikh Halai battalion, they had attacked, but their attack was repulsed by the Pakistanis. So that side area had not been covered, and in Pakistani Air Force, as a matter of fact, dropped napalm bombs and some very heavy 1,000-pounders on them, and they had quite a few casualties. But again, they were ordered that go and capture this. This area was known as the Six Tree area. There were 6 trees on that, by which we called that Six Tree area. So at 11 o'clock in the daytime, the day attack was done, and we, sitting on the other side of the hill, we could see the attack going in. We saw a couple of officers and Jawans being killed in that attack. And but hats off to Sikh Allied forces also. They overpowered those people, and after heavy casualties on their side, they captured the place, and Pakistanis were repulsed totally from there. They were in such a disarray from that, because after that, this was the last of the bastions of Pakistanis. They did not have anybody, any troops behind them. They were just moving, towards the, running away, and they left the place totally, except they just had 2 tanks where they used to rev up, to show as if they are coming in attack, but nothing have happened. Only what was there after, the morning, we used to have sporadic firing from their arty guns. And they used to be a nuisance. The nuisance, even I say, had to use again this thing at night. They used to fire star shells. It used to light up the area. So whole day you are sitting there, and if you even want to go for your ablutions, you are caught with your pants down. So you had to be very careful what's happening. But anyway, this was the lighter part of it. But of course, we kept on holding on to the position, and one attack also came, but we repulsed it, and we were in complete control. We could see Hyderabad Sindh from there. We were just about 35 kilometers away, and we could see the smoke out of their chimneys of their factories and all. And had we not stopped there, we would have really reached Hyderabad Sindh in no time at all, because there was nothing else, no army troops in between us and Hyderabad Sindh at that time. But anyway, we had to go as per the government directive, and since this was a holding operation, we were not supposed to go and capture more area. So this was kept as a this thing that this should be the place where we hold on to it. So till the 17th morning, when we came to know that ceasefire will be declared, and of course, in a couple of hours' time, we came to know that 8 o'clock the ceasefire will be in position, and we will hold on to the ceasefire. After that, we'll hold the area which we are at that moment occupying. So at 8 o'clock, the ceasefire was declared, and we headed. But at that time, what happens is that all the guns which are loaded and all before the ceasefire, these guns are, emptied, in the sense that the firing is done towards the enemy side to clear your guns. In that bargain, Pakistanis, when they fired at us, I lost one of my NCOs who was manning a listening post about 50 meters ahead of the company headquarters. A shell directly landed on him, and that was the last casualty which I had in my company in that time. So from there, the ceasefire was declared, and at that time, the main problem of our troops was there was no water. But the railway engineers and our army engineers, between them, they did a hell of a good job. They joined the railway line between Munabao and Khokrapar, and a train was started, and we got our first water from the train. It was brought up to Parsejiveri station, where we got it, and our quartermaster brought in some hot food. And after almost about 4-5 days, we got some water. It was a chaos, people were, jumping on this thing, and it was a very difficult task to hold on to them, to, wait for the distribution. Anyway, between me and one of my other officers who was there, we managed to put a stop to that, and water was distributed, and we could, sort of bring some respite to the people. Food also there, and we kept on waiting there now since ceasefire was there. Then at that time, we were told that General Manekshaw would be visiting us on the 31st of December. And in between, the other side where the Sikh allied troops were there, it was decided that one of our companies will go and help them, in securing the area. So I was, since I was told by the CEO that I should proceed on leave, as a matter of fact, so I was given the task of taking that company and posting them on the other side of railway, on the northern side, and take over that area, and till the actual company commander of that company will come and take over from me. So I accordingly did the needful, and on 31st, I handed over it to the Major who came and went on leave. But as luck would have it, this major, along with his few Jawans and JSOs, he was on a recce patrol. He was surrounded by these Pakistanis after the ceasefire, and they were captured in our area, and they were captured, and 3 of them were tortured to death. We came to know only this. Their bodies were handed over to us much later. And that too also with burns on them. We could see that they had been badly tortured. You see, that is the difference between the Pakistan army and ours. We always honor the dead. We never do anything, which is not really required. As a matter of fact, when we handed over their people to them, we had buried them in the sand itself, and the bodies fully intact was handed over to them. In our case, we got these boys who the major who was killed in that after the war was brought back in, I mean, say, in a very bad state, and we had to sort of cremate them there itself. So this is, how we captured, and then we stayed on Parvatali till for about 1 year we were there. In between, we were pulled back to Jamnagar for about 3 months rest, and again we came back to Parvatali. Our people were there till 72, say about December 72, when we were ordered that we have to give when the Simla agreement was taken place, we were asked to revert back to our side of the international border. We felt very bad about it. Reason is that I'm sure no army officer or army person would like that whatever they have, captured with, by, giving their blood and sweat on this thing to give it back. But then you have to follow the politics and the politicians. It was decided, and we came out. And when we came out, before that, the governor of Gujarat, he invited us, and I was one of the representatives. We were felicitated in Ahmedabad for the task done for this thing, and it was a good this thing finishing off, with a bang. We came out, and we were in Jamnagar, from where we were given sort of a send off from them, and we came back to Pune from there. Of course, it was with bittersweet memories. We did leave the place, but I'm saying it is something which is etched in memory and cannot be forgotten. Even now, I was thought that I'll write down something, but I've spoken extempore to you, because it is there still in my mind how we managed to come out from there. So that's how the thing. Now I would invite, if anybody would like to ask me any questions on anything, I'm there to sort of answer your queries.
Thank you so much, sir. I was about to request, for past couple minutes, I've been thinking I should interrupt and talk about the time, but the way you've been speaking, it is flowing exactly like a train of emotions, and verbatim, as if all of us are there in that situation, as you've seen. So thank you for being verbose. Thank you for walking us and taking us through the memory lane. I have requested everyone to either raise hand or in the chat have questions which we can take. But while we are waiting, I haven't seen anyone yet respond. But I do have some questions, because these are your thought-provoking discussion is great.
Sure,
Now the
Ramesh,
first
go
question
ahead.
has come, but I'll just, because I myself am intrigued. I've served on LC, but not obviously, and more in the CI counter-insurgency operations. But this is really gut-wrenching when I heard it. So one question, which is more military, is you said, sir, Mahar regiment. Are you more specific to Mahar when you said that troops like to be led? Obviously, we all see the leaders, they see and then they follow. But is it more specific to Mahar troops?
You see, Mahar troops basically, as I told you, are very docile people, but they are fighters. Right from if you go back into history, they have been. The British also used them as troops, and there's a lot of controversy still. About the same thing, like in Koregaon, Bhima, and all. Where the Marathas lost, but these people, they like the officers to be with them. There are certain troops who will just go in without any problem, like the Sikh troops or the Gurkhas. But our Mahar troops, they will go anywhere where you need them. But now, as I told you, Mahar troops, there again, now I'll just correct you on one thing. Mahar troops earlier, were only Mahars, from the Maharashtra. Now we got about 22 battalions, and all of them, we have got people coming from various castes, even we've got Adivasis are there, others there. So things have changed now. What they were in 71. 71, we had only about 6 pure battalions, pure Mahar battalions. The others were all mixed troops. Now, mixed troops have a different this thing, sort of yardstick of moving in, how they go. But one thing was there in the Mahars, always had been led by the officers. And if you see that we have got officer casualties in every war, even in 65, we lost almost about 5-6 officers, in that 65 operations. And I'm saying the casualties are more, but then they go anywhere you need them. That is what the basic
Got
thing
it.
about our troops.
Sure. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So I'll take a question which has come from Rohit ji. So how close was the border movie when it showed the Battle of Longewala?
Battle of Longewala was, see, if you go by as the crow flies, it would be about, say, about 60, 70 kilometers away from us. Because you see, we were like Munabov, where we crossed. Say Longewala was on the other side. They were near this place called Uttar
Sir, I'll
Line.
interrupt you. I think I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think the question is more about your experiences. And Rohit ji, you are welcome to
Correct.
speak. But your experiences, how the movie portrayed, and your experiences. I'm sure you may have seen that movie. I'm assuming.
Longewala. Yeah, as I told you,
Border movie, sir.
Border, yeah, I know. Border movie. You were talking. Sorry, I thought about the other thing. No problem. Border movie I've seen. Yes, you're right. But border movie, what was shown was a true replica of what happened, because we were very close by. We did have it, and this Sikh company of the Sikh battalion which was there, who were who were there, they really stopped these people in their tracks with the help of the Air Force. The Air Force at Uttar Lai. Uttar Lai was the airfield which was the closest to Longewala. And they were the people who were attacking. They were, so this Punjab people, when they sort of battalion, there was only one company, and they held these people for the whole night. The Pakistanis thought that they were sort of having a big build-up behind them. But the whole night, yes, somehow I don't know why Pakistanis did not come out. Otherwise, they had lots of tanks and they were coming in big sort of move towards the thing. Had they overpowered this Punjab people, they would have definitely rolled into into India, and things would have been very different. But yes, border movie depicts quite a bit of this thing is as realistic. But I would say hats off to basically the Air Force, who really made mincemeat out of these tanks, and it was a real good operation which was there.
Following up, sir, another question comes. What you are saying, in fact, myself being a veteran, even I cannot relate to it, because you've seen the actual 71 war while we have watched the border movie or the movies. So a similar kind of a question comes, which is, do you have any incidents? Because that, I think, was there in border movie, where few Jawans wanted to turn back, and if yes, how did you keep them going? I think not exactly turn back in border movie. It was like that, whether I think Sunny Deol was the company commander there, and he said, I'll stay here. मैं यहीं रहूँगा, जिसको जाना है जाओ, ऐसा something like that.
No, I'm sorry to say, but you see, this is just in the movie. It's not there.
I know.
You see, the troops,
Sure.
it is they have to put some masala always there in a movie to make people. But in actual fact, nobody is asked whether you are going to stay or you are going to run away. But the troops who have been put there, they are supposed to be there, and they cannot. If somebody deserts, then obviously there is the Army Act to take care of them. So it was all. It's not true at all that the chaps wanted to move out from there and this thing, because they are not asked that will you stay or will you go. Your task is there to hold the enemy. Till your last bullet is fired, you are there to hold the enemy. So it's not a true thing that people want to desert from there. No, sorry, it's not there.
More than that, sir, I'd like to rephrase this question. Been in certain situation again in CI where at least the troops, I commanded Rajputs and Gujaratis. So sometimes troops came up and said, "Sab, ऐसे कर लेते हैं. Let's ambush this way, or ये tactical ऐसे change, sighting change करते थे, something." So I would ask you, Did you have that kind of, although you had already said that your troops, there is Mahar, would like to be led, but did you have those kind of situations where they would say, नहीं साहब, ये जो है इधर से आ रही है इनकी बटालियन और ये करते हैं, something of that sort, which was more enthusing, which is your memory from your
You see,
experience?
I'll tell you one thing. You see, the troops may not do it, but yes, the JCOs and the NCOs,
Right.
they do sometimes come, after all, there are times that you may have overlooked something, which, because you see, JCO and an NCO are ahead of you. You being in the company headquarters, you may not be knowing the actual position. So certain times, yes, there suggestions would come, but it was up to the company commander to accept it or not. So the suggestions, yes, suggestions were there. It's not that the Mahar troops, by being and by my telling that they are willing to be led only. The question is not that. Led means that they want you with them. There are times, like in Pakistan Army, you see there were not even a single officer is there with them. They are way behind, and it's the JCOs who are leading the troops most of the time. But in our case, the officers will always be there. Eat, they drink, they stay, they sleep. Everything is done with the troops. Must have experienced yourself. We do not,
Right.
sort of limit ourselves to only the officer class or the. We are one entity, and that one entity has to, make sure that the task given is fulfilled. So suggestions will be there, definitely, and we do have sand model discussions also, where even sometimes JCOs and all are also there. Who give, if the suggestion is good, why not? So it
Sure,
is done. It is done. It's not.
got it, sir. We have one more. Somebody's raised hand. Pradeep ji, I think you've raised your hand. If you want to speak, please unmute yourself and make your comment or question.
Oh yeah, I have one question, and that question is: Pakistan is a Muslim country, and Hindustan is a Hindu country. So any war between these two countries has religious roots. Pakistanis attack Hindustan because we are Hindus. So how do our armies look at that intention? So do we look at, okay, Pakistanis are Muslims, or we just think that they are enemies?
Pradeep, I'll tell you one thing on this. First thing, our army is a very apolitical army. We don't believe in. We have Muslim troops also. We have Muslim officers also. We have got all sorts of people there. Christians are there, Muslims are there. So ours is a very, very sort of a army which is made up of all the sects which are there. So we do not take, for us, the enemy is there because they are fighting for another country. Now in Bangladesh also, if you see, we captured 93,000 prisoners who were all Muslims. They were brought into India. They were kept very well. They were fed. They were given freedom of staying in the camps. And they themselves, when they went, they felt very happy that we treated them so well. So in our culture, we do not mistreat these people. As a matter of fact, I'll just go a little ahead. I'll tell you, after leaving the army for some time in about 80s, I was in Saudi Arabia. I was, working with a Greek company, and I had Pakistani people also with me. We had Indian Muslims also. And these Pakistani Muslims, 90% of them were all prisoners of war in 1971. They were there with us. And believe me, none of them created any difficulty or any problem. So just to think that they are Pakistanis, they are Christians or they are Hindus, and we are Hindus and they are Muslims, really holds no water. We are a apolitical army. We do not believe in this thing. Even in today, you go to my regimental center in Saugar, you will see all the places of worship, we called it the Gyan Mandir, where, the masjid, the Gurdwara, your church, as well as this thing is in the same complex. So it is not there that we fight because they are Muslims. Sorry, that is not there at all. We don't fight for this thing. We fight over our country and not for any particular religion. Gone are the days when these things used to be there, like the Christians fought for the Holy Grail, the Muslims fought for their, this thing with the Christians and with the Hindus, but much later on. We never, even during good old days, even when Chanakya's time or something, this was not there. So, no problem at all. I don't think so that this holds water at all. I hope
I
I've
do have
answered
a
your
question,
question.
sir, on this.
Yeah.
Well, if Pradeep ji, I'm adding to this discussion. We've seen this in Saurabh Kalia's case, Captain Saurabh Kalia's case. We have unfortunately now are witnessing through you the brutality that Pakistani army does to the captured troops, and the unethical ways that they've been operating. My experience, limited experience, says that we are professional. We will conduct operations. If we have to kill, we'll kill. But that's the military etiquette, just like, sir, you had brought out. But this is a repeated phenomena that we see. That is brutality, parts getting chopped off, brutal torture, and so on. So, did you see, with your experience, that was there some kind of motive, which could be what Pradeep ji has already alluded to, could be religious in tone, or could be something else? Because we don't, as part of our military, we don't practice or are trained to think on those lines. But like I said, military actions, we do take those military actions.
Yeah.
Those could be brutal because, I mean, when the blood spills, it is painful.
Obviously,
So,
yes.
what's your thought there, sir?
You see, I'll tell you one thing. Bad eggs are there in all the types of armies. Everywhere people are there. Not everybody is bad. There are times, I'll tell you, even during 71, our person called Mullah Feroz, as a matter of fact, from the Air Force, they were captured by the Pakistanis. He was air OP. He was captured, and a couple of other Muslim things. But they were, very, the next day itself, they were returned back to us, totally intact. It was only one case where I told you where one of my battalion officers was tortured, because that particular area, that time probably they were smarting under having lost the war, and somebody took that thing, and this was the only incident where I saw that brutality was there. There have been this thing, but as I told you, that in the heat of the moment, we may have also done something which I may not be able to tell you now what happened, but there are times when you might have taken action against this without any rhyme or reason. We have killed people who may not be involved in that, but that is in the heat of the moment. It is not preconceived that you are going to go and because he's a Muslim or he's a Hindu, I must kill him. So the bad eggs are always there, and we have to accept that. I'm saying there's nothing, but as a professional army, I don't think so these things will ever happen. Unless, of course, it's like today the Israel war is there, but I'm saying there's something which is ethically, I'm saying, going in a wrong way. But as far as our professional army, Indian army is concerned, I don't think so such a thing will happen. But Pakistani army, they do have a bit of a more of I would say, they will go to any extent, sometimes, but not always. Most of the people I found, they are quite comfortable. Is not a big problem, because we captured a lot of people there also, and they were not giving us any difficulties.
Got it, sir. Sir, another question has come, which is not directly pertaining to the military sphere, but the impact of the government, or I think it is alluding to the politics. The question is, can you throw light on how center government has a role to play in kind of attitude army holds in its working?
You see, the army basically follows orders. Now, whatever the political decisions are there, the political decisions are taken with a wider frame, which is there, at that particular moment, what is happening. I'm saying, which the army, as an army, I would not be knowing, but they are, in the know of various things which are happening in the world, or what is the reason for what they have taken a decision. But the decision taken by them have wide ramifications in the army, because we are trained to follow. We are trained to follow the orders. It's not the question of that we have to, sort of analyze as to why they have given the orders. But the political sphere will always be having upper hand, because all the diktats, whatever are done with the political connivance only. It is not something you have to follow what the politicians tell you to follow, you cannot do it yourselves. Usually, if you do it yourselves, then it boils down to sort of the army rule coming in. It is not there. Our army will follow always the whatever the political situation is there and what the politicians decide. It is done that way.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we do not have any more questions. I have a couple, but before that, wanted to call out. We've been having these sessions. We've been inviting esteemed guests like yours. So, what exactly is the purpose? That is what I wanted to call out for this Azad Hind Fauj community. This is to bring armed forces personnel together on a global scale to build and support community and build a network. So that is what we intend to do, and we are continuing to do. And secondly, just like you are doing, sir, we are calling out all the veterans with great experience to capture the memories that they have of the war, and then spread it out on the social media. And also, the idea behind that is to inspire and educate the younger generation to join these services, the bright ones. And we also offer book writing and publishing assistance to the veteran community. In addition, on a case-by-case basis, we are also open to supporting candidates for different services or the examinations like the NDA, CTS, and so on. And why exactly this Azad Hind Fauj? This is because of the inspiration that we derive out of Netaji's leadership, and especially his military leadership. Just wanted to call that out. So with that, I'll give a moment.
Just one thing which I would like to tell you about this battle of Naya Chor, which is called, the Parvatali battle. There is a book also which has been written, one of my contemporaries. This is the Battle of Naya Chor, written by General G.R. Ford, in which the complete details what I talked about have been given in this. Okay. It is called Battle of Naya Chor by Major General G.R. Ford. And also one of my articles, when 50 years of 71 war was celebrated. So a book has been published by Claus, that is, from Delhi, which is Bangladesh Liberation After 50 Years. This has an article which, again, I have given, my article is there in this. And this is also available. So anybody who is interested will be able to get more details on this from there. Just thought I'll apprise you that this.
Thank you, sir.
We can do.
Thank you, sir. Rather, I was hoping that if there is somebody else asking a question, and we are still open since we have a couple minutes. But if not, then I wanted to actually, when you were speaking about your experiences, so you had an experience of hand-to-hand combat.
Yes.
In the recent memory, we are seeing the Chinese troops. Unfortunately, we lost a CO. In fact, a Mahar CO recently, right, sir? With Chinese, against Chinese in the hand-to-hand combat. So my question is, and I'm not talking about Chinese, I'm more specific to Pakistanis. What's your experience dealing with these people? Now, my context to this question is, it is, again, for the popular opinion, we have different, I would say, communities which are being reflected from Pakistan, for example, Pathans, right, or somebody or to that by that yardstick. So when you led your troops in the hand-to-hand combat, did you see the same ferocious attitude that the movies would project, or did you see that either they are equal, or did you see that the movies project quite a bit, or popular folklore project quite a bit, and the reality is something else? And I would, before you answer, sir, I would say this. We've had those situations when Afghans would come. I mean, I'm talking about the counterinsurgency operations, the terrorists, and so on, 6.5 feet. But when we would engage them in any kind of ambushes, or we did not have hand-to-hand combat. In fact, only one of my course mates has had that situation. we did not find them very ferocious. Which was contrary to the belief that many people had said, oh, a 6.5-foot guy, he will bash you left, right, and center. In fact, most of them would simply run away. That has been our experience. So wanted to see how did Pakistani troops behave in hand-to-hand situation, hand-to-hand combat situation.
Sure. Himanshu, I'll tell you one thing. In hand-to-hand combat, firstly, I'll tell you, it's a misnomer that 6.5 feet a guy will come and bash you up and do the things and all. That's all bullshit. Nothing. You see, it is the heat of the moment. Troops which are defending, they will always be in trenches, etc. So these guys, as it is, are scared. When you go into attack, they normally, the first thing is to disengage and run. You see, hand-to-hand combat only comes when the attacking troops come very close to the defense, main defenses. If you are far away, you are firing at them. If they are firing at you, it makes sense. But hand-to-hand combat only comes up when you have, reached their main defenses or the trenches where they are entrenched in, or the bunkers where they are in. So you see, movies, as I told you, movies always will project something which is, not realistic, I would say. But that is just to gain attention and to sell their movies. In normal hand-to-hand combat, it is not that ferocious. It is there because you are firing from the hip, or you are doing, might use your bayonet once or twice, but that's about all. Because otherwise, the people who are there, they will disengage and they will go back to fight again. Which is, the aim is not to die or to be killed. The aim is to withdraw to a better position and live to fight another day. You see, that is the basic thing. So this is not there. Hand-to-hand combat means it maybe when 2-3 people might have done it, and the others, when they see this happening, they'll withdraw, go to a safer distance. That is where the counter-attacks come in. You see, they again regroup, come back to and fight with you. So hand-to-hand combat does not really mean that you are bashing them up with fisticuffs and you are having sort of weapons in your hand and killing them with your knives and all. It is not that. That is not there. Maximum, as I said, told you, if you might find 2-3 guys who are firing at you, it's a machine gun nest, you might throw in a hand grenade and kill them in that. So attacking troops will always, sort of have an upper hand to make the other people run in case you are in good force and you come with a momentum which overpowers them, and the people will withdraw and come back at you in a counter. That's the basic.
Sure, sir. Thank you for that explanation on that part. So still looking, sir, in case there is somebody else who would like to ask. Give last couple seconds before we wind up. But great conversation, sir. Great storytelling, which is how you actually put it out there. It was like walking in the trenches with you. So thank you with the way you explained it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Himanshu. It was very nice talking to you people, and it was nice that I could, sort of bring out some things which are, as I told you, they are etched in the memory, because not everybody gets a chance, as I told you, I think I was very lucky that in my 10 years of I did counterinsurgency, I fought there, then I went to J&K also, there also we had something. So it is your luck that you get it. I'm saying, of course, nowadays things are different. Wars are very different now. Now, the sort of hand-to-hand combat is almost gone now. It will not be. It will be always a long-range fighting, which is going to happen. So it is, evolution is always there, and these things keep on changing. So we have to go with the times, and hopefully, let's hope that someday the wars are not there and the armies are not required to do all these things. So it's best to defend yourselves, and that's the best. And fortunately, now our Indian Army today is at the threshold of doing very well. They're doing well. Let's hope the politicians don't interfere too much and create more problems. Otherwise, the army is doing well.
I'll just wind up on that note, sir. Yes, let's hope that day comes when there is peace all over, and that's the reason we need army always.
Yeah, that is
so.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
sir.
much.
So So thank you everyone for joining in, and thank you so much for your time today. This session is recorded, and the link's available. Thank you once again. Have a good
Thank
evening,
you.
Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Hind.